Today I'm going to be doing an overview of Lucasfilm's multimedia project Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, the novel, and the 6-issue comic book. In 1996, Lucasfilm would conceive the multimedia project Shadows of the Empire, a story that would be set between the events of Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. The story focuses on a variety of different plots and subplots, following our main characters Luke Skywalker, Leia, Chewie, Lando, and a new character, Dash Rendar, to sort of replace the absent Han Solo. So in this overview, I'll be mainly talking about the novel and the comic book, mostly because those are the two things that I've had experience with in this multimedia project. Like I said, this story features a variety of plots and subplots, and I don't think I'm going to be able to talk about all of them in depth, but I will be trying to do my best to mention them and give you my thoughts. So I'm going to be doing this off script. I'm just going to be telling you my thoughts, so, forgive me if I'm going to be rambling. This story takes place shortly after the events of Empire Strikes Back, and after Luke Skywalker's escape from Cloud City on Bespin. The Emperor is quite displeased with Vader, and is actually questioning his competence in the capture of Skywalker. Shortly after, we're introduced to the character Prince Shizor, who is the head of the crime syndicate Black Sun. We soon get a small glimpse into Shizor's backstory, and we learn why he has a grudge against Darth Vader. This leads Shizor to putting a bounty on Luke Skywalker's head, all in an attempt to embarrass Darth Vader in front of the Emperor. The story starts to get going once Lando receives information that Boba Fett is on the planet Gull. The Alliance finds this a good opportunity to try and rescue Han Solo. Anyone who's seen Return of the Jedi knows that the rescue attempt on Gull doesn't go as planned. But during this, Rogue Squadron is in orbit battling an entire Imperial fleet. Meanwhile, Rogue 6's X-Wing goes haywire and ends up targeting Luke's X-Wing. So this is the first assassination attempt on Luke's life. Later we find out that a mechanic was paid by Black Sun to tamper with Rogue 6's X-Wing, and this leads Leia and Chewie on their own side quest to go figure out who's paying for the bounty. This also leads Luke to go into hiding on Tatooine, and we see him make his lightsaber. During this time on Tatooine, there's a second assassination attempt. Jabba the Hutt ends up sending his swoop gang after Luke. Dash Rendar shows up, and he and Luke team up, and they defeat the swoop gang. After that, Luke gets a message from the Bothans, and here we learn how the Bothans got the plans to the second Death Star. We also learn things like how Leia got this costume. I forgot what the bounty hunter's name was. It's like Bosch or Bosch or something. But apparently that character wronged the Black Sun and, ended up dying. Yeah. In short, Leia meets up with Prince Shizor, and he ends up trying to seduce her with pheromones. Like, seriously, you thought the Black Widow movie was weird with all that freaking pheromone thing? Shadows of the Empire did it first, okay? Meanwhile, Chewie sends a distress signal to Luke and Lando, and they end up teaming up with Dash Rendar, and all of them go to save Princess Leia. And that's kind of the climax of the story. Climax. That's essentially a watered-down summary of the story. I highly recommend just reading the novel and the comic, and if possible, read them back to back. That's something that I wish I'd done, because I read the novel a few years ago, and I've just recently read the comic, and I'm finding out that I think I would have enjoyed it even more if I read them back to back, because I think they complement each other. Like, the comic has this whole Boba Fett subplot, and that's quite interesting because it shows the Bounty Hunter Guild trying to kill Boba Fett so they can capture Han Solo and get the reward money from Jabba. That's quite interesting. I found that quite fun. There's also another subplot with this character named Jix, who I don't believe actually makes an appearance in the novel. I might be wrong about that, but I don't remember him being in the book. He's basically a mercenary for hire. A mercenary for hire. It's so redundant. And Darth Vader sends him on a mission to capture Luke Skywalker. Jix ends up infiltrating the swoop gang and becomes a member, and ends up having to save Luke Skywalker from the swoop gang. Kind of interesting. I highly recommend the comic. It's pretty good. It's a watered down version of the story, but that's why I recommend just reading them side by side because, like I said, they complement each other. You find out why Boba Fett's ship is damaged and why he goes to Gaul to get it repaired. One character that I haven't mentioned is Giri, who's sort of like the assistant to Prince Shizor, and she's an android. And yeah, there's not really a lot to say. I mean, she's pretty cool. She's kind of badass in the novel. Doesn't get a lot of screen time in the comic, but I mean, yeah, just, like I said, read the book and the comic and you'll get the full story. One thing that I do want to mention is the novel was written by Steve Perry. Not that Steve Perry. The writer for the comic book was John Wagner, and it was drawn by Killian Plunkett. So yeah, all in all, Shadows of the Empire is a 10 out of 10 for me. It really was like watching a Star Wars movie without a movie. So, in that respect, I think Lucasfilm really accomplished what they were trying to do. One thing people may be asking is, can you read the comic without reading the novel? I think you can, but while I was reading it, I noticed that some scenes were, glossed over or, cut out altogether. So that may be confusing to some people. I would highly recommend just reading the book and then the comic back to back. But you can read the novel without reading the comic. That's one thing that I had no problem with. But yeah, Shadows of the Empire, fantastic read. Go get yourself a copy. Pheromones!